Hi, I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Hello, Moon to Moon. It is Britton, and I'm here for you with an episode dedicated to sharing with you all the nitty-gritty of my process of growing my astrology obsession into a business in the first 18 months. I told you a few episodes back, you may have heard the one called The Quickening. That was, I think, at the dark moon at the end of the Aries cycle, so that would have been a little over a month ago. I had shared that I was going to be creating episodes looking at different chapters of my career and noticing kind of the patterns of the things that I was learning and the things that I was going through and like what I was doing actually to take something from being under the surface of the earth to being a little sprout. And so if you haven't heard that prior episode and you're interested in like how you built a big astrology business, mystical business in 7 years. If you're curious about that, I would say to start there or listen to that after this, because everything that was going on under the surface for me is really like the soil, like the quality of then what grew. And the constellation of habits and practices and rituals and like the dedication to repair and to fortification that was going on before I ever said out loud, like, which is what I did in March of 2018. I said out loud, I want to be a midwife for transformation, and I know I'm going to be using astrology to help me with that. And I had this vision that I was going to be someone basically coaching and cheerleading and like holding the space for other human beings to move through transformation processes. And I knew that astrology was going to be in the room with me. And that's what I said out loud. I swear to you, it was like the week my kids were in spring break that March, and I was visiting for the first time this person that I had started to talk to long distance after my separation. It was our first time to ever be together, and I trusted him with this really sacred longing in me. There's my dog barking. Okay, I paused so my dog could say what he needed to say to my daughter who had just gotten home through the window. Okay. Yes, I was speaking to my spell. I said out loud for the first time what I wanted. And you have to understand that this is a period where I was studying for my exams, for my PhD. I had finished coursework. I had my bibliographies. I was meeting with my professors. This had been my dream. Like, my dream was always to get a PhD so that I could be on the tenure track and on the publishing track and be a professional teacher in academia and a thought leader in academia on topics that I was really obsessed with. I was fucking obsessed with the stuff I used to write about. I'm sure I've said elsewhere, but in case you're new to my work, my topic of my dissertation was going to be the visualization of atomic science in post-war the visualization of atomic science in post-war America or something like this. Yeah, and like our obsession with the atom and like how Disney even got involved to like get us on board and like this amazing thing. Yay, nuclear weapons. Let's spend tons of money. And how, artists and visual culture were brought into this whole campaign to exponentially increase the money that we put into defense spending and like the whole ramp up of the Cold War in the 50s. So I was obsessed. I still am obsessed in a way, but I don't really make a lot of space anymore for that obsession. It comes through my obsession with Pluto, I suppose. But I was really feeling called to give it up. And this was a wild thing because I was pretty sure I had I had it in me to have a really powerful career as an academic professor. And I'd never questioned that. That was always going to be what I did. Okay, so I said that spell out loud, and thus began my career because within a month, I had an opportunity to have a client. And so that's really where we ended our time together in that last episode called The Quickening. And so here, what we're going to be doing is picking up from like client number 1 and looking at all the things that I was doing to go from one single human being who wants to exchange with me for money, with money involved, to what I would say was like a real shift in my career starting the fall of 2019. So it was around 18 months. It's kind of like 16 to 20 months. There was like some huge shifts that I started to move through in that window that propelled me into this like next level of my career, which is what I'll talk about in the next installment of this story, which is so fun for me. And I have all the primary sources because I started journaling in such a dedicated daily way. My entire interior world was poured into these journals. So I can just flip through it and look at exactly all the things that I was thinking about, wondering about, meditating about, having downloads around, the things that I was confronted with, the things that were really hard, where I was doubting myself and where I was trusting myself like in really Neptunian ways, because it's important for you to know that in this window of time, Neptune was on my sun in Pisces. And so I was like in a real Neptunian wave of just like surrender to spirit and like, I have to follow this calling. Like I'm on a wave and I can't go back to where I was. Like there's no getting off this wave. That's what's happening in my life right now. So in a way, like thing number 1 that was a really big propeller is that as I started to lock in to this dream, like nothing, I couldn't shake it. Like it was so real, even though my reality didn't have it, Like I just felt so strongly the vision. And these journals are so powerful because I was naming what became true. I was naming what became true in my journals as longings, as yearnings, as desires, as visions for myself. And I was showing up, the evidence is in the journals, showing up for like, what do I have to do? Humbly, I'm willingly submitting myself to like deep healing, hard change, confrontation. Tell me what I need to do, Spirit. Show me the teachers, bring me the opportunities to learn, to grow, to evolve, to release, to let go, and to fortify myself. Please bring to me everything that I need so that these visions may come true, so that I can be the me that is participating in this vision, and it's my reality, which is now my reality. It's wild. And so that's why it's like, well, what was going on? Let's look at it. And that's really like kind of the heart of it, I would say. At the heart of it, I just like popcorn in my lap, movie on, like nothing is so Neptunian, it's like nothing is going to take my eyes off this screen. I am all in. Nothing else even exists as what's on this screen. And I was propelling my life into what I saw on the screen. And nothing was going to hold me back. Not what anybody said about it. And, that brought up all kinds of things. So we can dive in. But the reason that I'm beginning with these first 18 months is just because of the wild trajectory of one client, and like the first 6 to 9 months is like maybe 7 clients. It's not a lot. But by fall of 2019, I was steady enough to be like, I want to have a logo made. And I'm changing my name from Working With Your Wheel to Britton LaRue, because I'm claiming Britton LaRue as what this is. And that is like a huge step. That's huge to do that in this 18 months. So here we go. First, I'm going to update you on things going on in my world that are time sensitive. The first thing is that Underdog to Diva has had its first meeting. This is my mentorship space that I created for people like me, for the me of the window of time I'm going to be talking to you about. The me that was like getting momentum, that was moving things along, but there was a lot I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never been in sales ever in my life. I didn't know anything about writing sales copy. I didn't know anything about selling. I didn't know how to write copy that wasn't like an academic paper. I didn't know what it was like to have an Instagram presence. I didn't know anything. And I was just like so hungry for information, for strategy, for wisdom. Like, someone just give me ideas and I will implement the ideas, And this space, this mentorship space, is for you that's like the me, that is just like so obsessed with this vision. But it's like, how do I do this? How do I bump this along? How do I get more trajectory? How do I move through all the things that I'm terrified of in order to make this real? What would it be like to be supported while I'm having to release a lot of things that are really scary to release, And so This group mentorship space is 6 months, every other week, with in-between opportunities to ask questions so that you can come in here and take some wisdom. Take the wisdom for yourself. If you don't want my suggestions, no problem. Everything that I offer in this space, I just freely give, and then I let go. I was telling the group yesterday, like, I'm not an accountability coach. Like, I don't really even want to retain details about, like, well, you said last time how you were going to blah, blah, blah. I don't want to remember that stuff. Like, that's your business, you know? Your pace, your ways of implementing anything in this space is your business. I don't want to be involved with that. I just want to freely share with you, abundantly share with you the wisdom that I have to give, and then let you take it to do what you will with it. And it's left me now. Like, it's now yours. It's your responsibility, your sovereignty, your agency to take it or leave it, you know? And I just love the way that feels. It just feels really good. I really, 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 really love supporting individuals in their emergence. But that doesn't mean I want to get involved in your emergence. You know what I mean? I got a lot of things I'm doing. I'm doing my emergence over here. So we do have a few seats left. And so what I've decided to do is basically keep the doors open until before the second meetup, which is Tuesday, June 10th. So the final doors closing, as long as there are seats, is Monday, June 9th. So if you are feeling called for more mentorship where it's like directly to what you're going through and I'm seeing you and I can support you with what you're going through right now in your emergence, come on in. The other thing is today I launched something I've been sitting on like a golden egg since fall. It's called Time Secrets. I'm really excited about this. It's a free gift to you. I made it in a flurry of excitement on one of the days last fall when Saturn was on my sun. It was the second pass. And I had this idea to do it for a while. And I just woke up that day and was like, I'm filming Time Secrets today. I've talked about this concept in Seeding the Year as time techne, meaning time craft. And I was going to call it that, but once the word secrets dropped in, I was like, that's just really fun. So it's called Time Secrets. And I basically drop like 7 to 10 minutes per planet of like the juiciest, most potent teaching on what I would say is how that planet can support you in relating to time. And this is really valuable because we were really raised with clock time and train time and automated time that feels very linear and it feels very automated. And as we regroove to new ways of being with time, the moon is so supportive with this. We know the moon teaches us about living cyclically, but all the planets have time secrets. And these have come to me through all of my own processes, my meditations, my rituals, my teachings, my spending a lot of time with these planets. So they're very short and bite-sized, but full of potency, with the possibility for great like catalyzing for you. And it's a free gift. It's a free gift that I've now made into this world. I'm going to let it basically replace what I currently have as my free gift when folks opt into my newsletter. I haven't replaced it in 3 years. It's been Abundance Begins with No since 2022. Which was amazing. And it's like, perfect, great. But it's time to update and just go ahead and take it, you know? It's a free gift. And it's expiring June 20th. So this is like one of those things that I do that has an ephemeral quality. So inviting you to take it, receive it. I would recommend receiving it on a walk or like where you're in some kind of state where you can just really be open, and receive it. And you may want to listen multiple times and just enjoy. It was so fun making it that day. And I've listened to them many times and I feel really proud. So there's that. And then the big thing, y'all, is that Emergence Astrology Year 1 is opening again. So my very first year of Emergence Astrology Year 1 is completing. We've been having this really incredible time together this spring. You may know that year 1 is set up so that the first 9 months are a hermitage, inspired by the hermitage period described in the quickening and what I'll be talking about in a minute. And then in the spring, it's a salon and everyone gets to meet each other for the first time. And it's like, it has been extremely moving. Creating in the dark like I was, having never done it before, so I had no feedback. There were times where I felt doubtful. There were times where I was like, is anyone even doing this stuff? Do people even like this? Like, is this like too weird? Are people just like, what am I supposed to do with this? I have inner critic parts too, and I felt afraid many times. Like, what if we go through this whole thing and then this whole thing was just a bust? That would be so sad, I walked away from other amazing astrology teaching containers to create this one, So I didn't know it was going to happen. But it's just been an incredibly rewarding experience because the kind of individual who signs up to do a hermitage, like, these are really like my people, like we're in a spirit together, we were talking in Emergence Astrology Year 1 yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah, we were talking about the 11th house as a house of the good spirit. And this for me, it's literal. It's a literal spirit. That there's this spirit that is guiding what we want to bring to the world. And that the more clear we are in that and like really sincerely and earnestly in guidance with that part of us, the more like forcefully and potently and clearly we will magnetize and constellate together others who have the same hopes and dreams as us in this world. And, it really feels like that in spaces that I've held over the years now, is that there's some kind of spirit that comes through my voice that is a very clear call. It's like a very clear lighthouse kind of thing. And it doesn't mean we're all the same kind of people. I have people in Emergence Astrology Year 1, like my other spaces, from all over the world and all the time zones. So we're not all the same. We're coming from very different places. But there's a spirit that's shared. And it's really, 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 really fulfilling to be in spaces like that. It's like a very at a spirit level, there's fulfillment. And in our world, there's deep spiritual loneliness, there's so many walking the planet. And my younger self often felt like this, just lonely at a spirit level, lonely at a spirit level. But not in this space. but it's also a very sovereign space, everyone's on their own path because that's the mystical pathway. And Emergence Astrology Year 1 is more about mysticism than it is astrology, because I'm a mystic first. So it's a very mystical approach with a wide variety of offerings for you to pick and choose like a buffet according to like the affinity interest of your own mystical self. So if you want to come get into emergence astrology with me, like for real in a big long-term way, like really get on this path, the door opens once a year, summer solstice. Once you're in, then you have the opportunity to say yes or no to year 2 and year 3, which are each very distinct. But you can't hop into 2 or 3 without 1. I don't care if you've taken tons of astrology classes already. I don't care if you're already a professional astrologer. And I don't care if you've never taken an astrology class. Because this is not about information. This is not about knowledge of the techniques. This isn't even about fluency with the language. This is some altogether different thing. So it's not for everyone. I'm just like to be so clear about that. This is really like, do you want to get into mysticism? Would you like a community of fellow mystics? And you got to go through a hermitage to get there. It's a pretty powerful filter. So unlike most of my containers, what I've decided is that while it is a no refund space, what I've decided is if within the first 3 months you want to back out, we can stop payments and no more, like no problem. But after 3 months, you would have to stay. And if you wanted to back out for any reason, then we go to my policy where then if you want to do something again in my spaces, you have to pay in full upfront. But what I'd like to do is give people an opportunity to taste it and really see for themselves, because there's a dropout rate. It's not for everyone. It is not for everyone. That's my challenge to you, because it's not about if you're doing the stuff in the hermitage. It's about how you hold yourself as a self-learner and a self-leader in an unshamed way, in an unapologetic way, creating the curriculum for yourself. So it's like, if it's really painful for you that you're not doing 100% of what I've given you, and it's like bothering you and it's like activating, it's probably not going to be a good space unless you'd like to move through that, because that would be really powerful. Because we're unlearning that like you have to do everything the teacher says and does. We're not doing that in Emergence Astrology Year 1. Y'all are my colleagues. I'm stewarding the space. We're creating what Emergence Astrology even is together. It is like, welcome to the creation of this like addition to the astrology history, Participate in what this is. Come be with us. Like, we're in forum here. We're in circle here, And it's pretty fucking cool. So summer solstice, it initiates final call and commit to the 9 months of the hermitage, and see you in the spring. There'll be more on that, but that's me making sure that there's like 3 weeks or so between now and doors closing, a little over 3 weeks, for you to learn all about it and keep listening and staying attuned to like, is this something that I want to be a part of? Do I want to be a part of this? The individuals who are going on to year 2 are just it's like all the bodies, it's the spirit body, the heart body, the mental body, the somatic body. Like, these are individuals who are really, really, really smart, but more than being smart, they're generous, they're authentic, they're earnest, they're sincere. It's a really powerful thing to be a magnet for such incredible humans. So if y'all are listening, thank you. Such a joy. Okay, so how did I go from client number one, who part of the story is how I ended up firing my first client, to having individuals in my spaces who, like, I can't wait to hang out with and learn from. Because that's how these spaces are, is like, I can't wait to find out what comes up with the topics I'm going to bring in. And like, we're all just like able to dazzle each other with like, whoa, I really felt that, All right. So let's do the timeline then. First client, April 2018. So around this period, I had started journaling. As soon as I named what I wanted in March, I started journaling visions of like containers. Basically, my first containers I was envisioning were one-on-one containers as well as like membership containers. And I was like picturing everything I was going to provide them, like lunar cycle, ritual ideas, meditations, delineations of astrology, chart delineations. I was seeing this picture of offerings. And so I found out that my teacher had a client who had a really bad astrology reading from someone else, and was very open to being like my guinea pig first client for very, very, very little money. It was basically like no money. I was just so excited. I wasn't thinking about money. I was not thinking about money at this time. Because I was in this mad Neptunian passion, I wasn't thinking about practical things. I was like fine with stripping my space of all like fancy things so that I could just live this path. And as I started to provide these things that I was seeing in this package, which were all asynchronous readings, I was getting this incredible feedback that oh my gosh, you're helping me so much. Like, this is so healing. And I was creating her meditations and she was really liking them. And it just felt so amazing. And meanwhile, I'm like rapidly learning with different teachers and figuring out like who are the thought leaders that I most admire in Instagram. And this is really like right before astrology exploded in a big mass way. It was getting really big in like LA and places like that, but it wasn't really to Dallas quite yet, where I am. It wasn't like the mass thing it became a couple years later. And so I was finding like who's out there and reading everybody's like new moon and full moon write-ups and what like this ingress is gonna mean and things like this, and figuring out like, I don't really like that kind of, I don't think I like that, just getting really clear about like what kind of writing and leadership I like and what is like, I don't really like that, which is really important, So, by July, Cancer season, I decided to start my Instagram. And it's all still there. Everything is still there from the beginning. You can go back and look. And then, because I realized, like, I don't want a private practice. I want to be a thought leader. Like, I want to participate. I want to participate in people talking. That's what I wanted. So I started to want to share what was in my journal. The stuff that was coming through in my journal, I started to notice that I wanted to, like, take it beyond my journal. I wanted people to look at it. I wanted to feel people reading my words. That's like really great information, because if I was to shame that as like, who do you think you are? Who would want to read what you have to say? You just found astrology. Yeah, I had those thoughts, but I was in a Neptunian haze. So I was able to actually hear my desire, which is like, I just want to participate in the public forum. So I started to put my posts up, and I had read that it helps Instagram growth if you comment on other people's posts, and they may then go, oh, I like you, I'm going to follow you. And that was basically how it took, I don't know, a year and a half-ish, the time period we're looking at, to get to 1,000 followers, Just very, very, very slow growth of building community. And there's still people that I interact with from back in this time. And just kind of figuring out, like, who's who, like, who knows who, and how are they connected, and, like, who, just, like, figuring out the kind of, like, web, like, larger family tree of how all of these different mystics know each other, and just kind of getting a vibe for, like, who I would want to be a teacher for me, and who's kind of like, I like learning from you on Instagram, but I don't know that I really want to, like, study with you, This things humans do. And so in that period of having that first client, I was, like, rapidly growing my my desire to, like, be in the web of conversation and Instagram. And that is an important desire and hunger to name, because it really is a huge part of me growing. Like, who's going to come to your offering? Like, who's going to come to your webinar? Who's going to come jump into your newsletter? Who's going to come to your podcast if you don't have people you're engaging with, and who are engaging with you in Instagram? This isn't to say you have to have Instagram, but this was the, like, process for me, For me, I'm looking at having zero community. It's not like I had been in this community locally. It's not like I was in a related community, like a yoga community or a massage community. Like, no, I had no connections. So Instagram felt like a place to grow something from nothing, like from nothing. I had no local ties in any way at all. So I didn't feel in any way beholden to the city of Dallas and people that I know. So Instagram for me felt like a place to start creating connections. And so that's what I did. So that when I started my newsletter in October-ish of 2018, maybe like 15 people joined, from Instagram, which is actually like a massive number, considering that I probably had like 200 followers max. Seriously, like the percentage on that is really impressive. And that just is because I was showing up, like, very sincerely as myself with my own personal voice. I wasn't trying to sound like anybody else. I knew how to have a personal voice from all my years of writing and teaching. And I had very strong aesthetic opinions from being in art history, and just like I could, use art that I love as my backdrop. And that will be how I begin to build an aesthetic that people can recognize. And I was reading a lot of blogs about like how to build Instagram community, how to build a brand, how to grow your newsletter. Like I was like I was studying my spiritual teachers like round the clock, but I was also studying just like free content on blogs to help someone who's never been in sales and marketing, like doesn't know what she's doing. That was me. What do I know about this? Nothing. So I went and learned things. And I just started to experiment with like, this actually feels pretty good. I can make this my own. And things that were like, no, that doesn't feel good. I don't like it. Like you can pay services to like build your Instagram audience by like pretending to be you liking people's things. And like, I don't know, all that just felt funny. Like no shame on it, but I tried everything. I was open to trying. And because I was open to trying a lot of different things, I was able to come to evidence of like, I like this works. I don't like this doesn't work for me. It was just kind of hustling. It was like very Two of Pentacles, just like, it's kind of messy. It's, we're just like doing the best we can. Balls are in the air, like working hard, throwing things at the wall, see what sticks. Like, I tried all kinds of different things in Instagram. Like I would do like, I called myself like Oracle of the Third Eye or something. This is before I knew who Amanda Yates Garcia was. Is like, this is what I'm going to call my new moon horoscopes that I'll write for my Instagram followers. That lasted probably like 3 lunar cycles before I was like, I just can't get over the cringe. Like, I didn't have the capacity to hold the word oracle yet, So it's not that the word or calling yourself oracle is cringe. It just, one develops capacity for these things, I didn't quite have that. And so meanwhile, my one client told a friend who then hired me in this like long-term container for very little money. And so then when she, as a third client, found me a third client through her, I was able to raise it like $10, and then through her, more clients, a few more and like raise it $10, So it's just like slowly getting used to like, yes, people pay me money. That is what people do. So at the beginning, it was all referral. I remember thinking that the first time a client would come in randomly without it being a referral, that just like came in from Google or something, and booked one of the offerings I had put up, that it was going to be like on Ghostbusters when they like nobody's hiring them. And then one day you see like the secretary gal take a call, and then she hangs up and she goes, "We got one." And she like does this bell, and they all stand up like, "Wait, what? We have a call? What?" And they're like putting on their clothes and like going down the like little pole. I mean, that was my inner personal joke. It's like, it's going to be like, we've got one from Ghostbusters, when it's just like, how did you find me? What? Because yeah, maybe fall of that year around the newsletter time, I got like the most basic Squarespace template that they had. And just like, even I can figure this out. Like, surely if someone else can do this, I can do this. It's just a simple template. I'm just going to put my name up. It's going to be like, about Britain, here's a photo, and then here's how you work with me. Here's my email if you have questions. And like I set up the like PayPal integration. It wasn't that hard. I thought Squarespace was actually a great resource for my first website. And because it was so simple, it had a kind of cleanness and like a clean elegance to it that I could aesthetically get behind. I have opinions. And then, and so, yeah, just, I honestly don't remember when that was, which is kind of funny, but they did start to come in. One of the things I did back then was Yelp. I eventually took myself off there because it was bringing in a lot of people that ultimately were not in affinity with what I want to help with, but it was helpful at like creating some momentum at the time. So the first year to 18 months, I was on Yelp, and that did bring people to me. So there are a lot of people who are looking for mystics, who come to Yelp. They may not be your ideal client, but you can get paid to practice, and you can serve them, even if it's not exactly in alignment, for the practice, and it will help you grow your confidence. And so that's what I did. And I just started to get more and more and more clients between Instagram and referrals and like Yelp and I guess Google. It just started to be more a part of my regular life. As we moved to like 6 months to a year in, it was like, of course I have clients. Like I went from, I don't understand how anyone can do this, to, of course I have clients. Now, this was not going to like pay all my bills. There was certainly not enough money coming in for me to even think about quitting university adjunct work. There was like no way of that happening anytime soon. But I was able to participate. I was participating in my gifts, and that felt so good. And the more I did that, the more confidence I had, and I began to more and more just feel really strong in showing up on Instagram with like the takes that are coming through my journals. And that really brings me to my journals because, wow, I would like to take this moment to thank my teachers, because these journals are full of the things that I was learning from them, but especially the journaling prompts and good questions that they were asking me that then I would ask myself from my intuitive voice. Achintya Devi, who taught me so much about creating ritual with the lunar cycle and helped me meet goddess frequencies. These goddesses were such incredible teachers to me and continue to be such incredible teachers to me. Especially, I would say, Sekhmet. I would say Mary Magdalene. And I would say Lilith. And I would say Ereshkigal. And I would say Isis, as really like teachers from the beyond who came into my body, is what it felt like, to help me and to uplift me and to help me see my own knowing. And Achintya was my primary teacher at learning how to connect with these frequencies through her ritual guidance and her like priestess journeying guidance. That is, she's incredible. I would say Chani Nicholas. I still will say Chani sometimes. I always called her Chani back then. Chani didn't have her app back then. You would buy a lunar ritual at a time. And she had all these incredible journaling prompts, as I imagine she still does. And really receiving her like grad student intelligence with her like activist progressive values and her unapologetic witch position, like really, 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 really important for me at the beginning. Deborah Silverman is someone who was really helping me to understand the importance of the elements, and her take on the planets was really, really helpful to me when I was learning at the beginning. Her journaling questions were very important to me. I would like to thank Deborah Kremins, who I was already in deep study with by the time I had my first client, and having that group for intuitive healing, we started to go really, really, really deep in this phase. And my capacity to trust my inner voice just was so fortified from her teaching and her groups. Sarah Faith Gottesdiener, hugely, hugely, hugely important to me at the beginning. Many Moons workbooks, not the planners, the workbooks. And then I took moonbeaming in 2018. Just a really, really important, impactful primary teacher who, doesn't know who I am. Most of these teachers did not know who I was. Deborah Kremins for sure, but most of these teachers, I took these large classes, or I listened to podcast type things, or I was reading their material. So I wasn't developing intimacy with them, but I was intimately involved with their voice. Lindsay Mack. As I got into tarot, I was lucky to have someone recommend Lindsay's podcast early. And so basically my whole approach to the tarot was always a Lindsay Mack approach. And oh my gosh, Lindsay Mack is just hugely important to the first 2 years of my career. Jessica Snow is a meditation artist who I just lived by her meditations back then. I was obsessed with them, and I was like a paid subscriber to her meditation library. Carolyn Myss is a medical intuitive, and her audio teachings on archetypes were extremely important to me. Amanda Yates Garcia came in later, not until her and Sarah Faith Gottesdiener started Strange Magic. But then I had some readings with Amanda Yates Garcia in 2019, maybe fall 2018 too. And then just in general, Amanda has always to me held this integrity frequency that is been such a powerful model. My teacher, Sommer, I first did readings with him, his Chiron readings in spring 2019. And then he asked me if I wanted to tutor with him and become his apprentice. And I said yes. And so that summer, I thought it was fall, but going through my journals, I see it was summer 2019 that we started that. And just Adam's work was so important to me back at this time. And then finally, I have to say the importance of Natasha Levinger, who is my dear friend and co-host of Crystal Ballers. I found Natasha in 2019 through Instagram, and we did a swap. And it was because of Natasha that I started to learn about narcissism and codependency and that language to help me with what had become inner child healing and spiritual reparenting in my life. And it was like one thing led to the next, that from working with Natasha, so much got illuminated for helping me with everything that was going on in my family as a consequence of what I was doing. Because so much of what's in my journals is holding myself through the confusions and sometimes the meanness of the community in my life, my pre-witch community, interfacing with who I was becoming. And just my journal was like the holder of all of the things that was bringing up. And I was like, you can read it in my journal that I'm parenting myself. Like I'm actually parenting myself in the journal, holding different voices as I moved through all the disappointment and judgment that I was receiving very literally, and staying with myself through that and not giving up. And that process from lunar cycle to lunar cycle to lunar, and I'm talking like every phase of the moon, it's in my journal with journaling prompts from different teachers guiding me. It's tarot spreads to support myself constantly. Everything that was going into my journal, I started to tease out as teachings. And you start to see things like course idea, the praxis of ritual, course idea, the moon is your parent. I mean, it's really amazing. Course idea, alchemy of such and such. Like there's all of this evidence of what then really did become things I created. And it was teasing it out from seeing how I was helping myself in this like synthetic space of like all of these different teachers who were all helping me in different ways, providing different kinds of models, but there was like a kind of a shared frequency that they all had that was like lighting up some part of me, and seeing how I could build things that could be supportive to other people and also like really powerful for me as the creator to steward. So yeah, the first course I did was called Neptune Vibes in February of Pisces season of 2019. So almost a year in from my first client. And I think like 8 people signed up, and it was like 40 hours of material for like $40 or something. Like it was like way over giving, like through the roof. But I didn't care, It wasn't about money. It was about, can I do this? I want to do this. Can I do this? I must do this. And one of the people who signed up for that was Angela George, who becomes important in the next chapter because she designed my logo. And in that same period, so things really ramped up, y'all, in 2019, because in January, I reached out to the online editor of D Magazine here in Dallas, who did like culture. She was in charge of like culture stuff going on, wellness, different things, and was like, hi, I grew up in Dallas. I have a master's in art history from SMU, and I just had a huge life change, and now I'm an astrologer. Would you like to hear my story? And she said yes, and we had coffee. I mean, that was like a huge lesson, and just like make the call, reach out, just take the chance, Because that was ridiculous, actually. I'd only had like 8 clients. But she said yes, so I was going to go with it. And because what I pitched was, I see that you don't have any horoscopes. Would you like me to write horoscopes for D Magazine? And like, I would have happily done it for nothing, like nothing. And she went to her boss, and they were like, yeah, astrology's on the up. Like, we should get horoscopes. And so next thing you know, I am writing horoscopes that I was the one that got to be in charge. I said, I want them to come out at the new moon, not at the start of the sign season, but the start of the new moon. And I insisted that they say in the copy, this is for your rising sign, because horoscopes are for rising signs. It was like shocking to me to realize that I never knew that my whole life. Nobody talks about this. I'm going to be honest with readers. And like that was enormous, because now I'm in front of all of these people. Once a month, I'm one of the key like things people see when they go to like what's going on in Dallas website, and they can click on their horoscopes, and it's like it linked to my website, which made me suddenly like such a more professional person, you know, to be like, she's Britton LaRue, horoscope writer for D Magazine. So that was like a huge win. I mean, it's really ridiculous that I got that gig, because I really hadn't been doing this very long, but I was always such a good writer. Those horoscopes were so good. And I think I just knew that I could do it. I knew that like, yeah, I'm new at this, but I know I can do this and I can do it really well. And like, basically I knew that this is my job. This is going to be my job. Nobody else should have this job over me. There was something in me that knew that. And so I just was like, no big deal. Just pop these out, you know? And I did that for like 8 or 9 months. And then the person who hired me moved to a different magazine. And then they didn't want me anymore because I was associated with her, and the person who came in to replace her like wanted to completely clear everything out. So it was perfect though, because I really didn't want to be a horoscope writer at all, you know, but I knew I could do it well. And I showed up and I did it really well. And I started to get so many clients from that I was able to quickly start to really raise my prices, because I truly needed to slow it down once I started to have that gig. It was like, okay, what are prices that like people actually have to think about it before they book it? Because before that, I had prices that were like so low that they couldn't say no, you know? So now I'm like in that price range of like more probably in the hundreds of dollars as opposed to under $100. So somebody has to think about it for a little bit, which helped like me have a manageable amount, because P.S., I'm a single mom and I have a full-time teaching load at university through all of this. I put out Neptune Vibes. I knew it was really good. That gave me an opportunity to find out that I could have my own school. Like, okay, so let me get this straight. All I have to do is like put up help people understand how awesome this experience will be. And then I'm in charge. Like I can do whatever I want. I mean, I'd always worked for institutions for teaching. I'd never had my own school. So Neptune Vibes was such a big moment, even though I like barely made money. I like lost money when you think about what I could have been maybe making in another kind of job, for the amount of time, for the money. But it was huge because I saw, you can hear my dog maybe. I saw that I can have my own school. Like, wait a second. I do it. I could just do this. I don't need other people. I don't need to wait for people to hire me. I can just do this. And that was really, really important, because it activated like my Aries rising, like I'll do it kind of quality. And I felt so much freedom. Like I just felt so much freedom. I didn't have to wait for somebody to hand me something, you know? And so, see, this is what this is the taste of the entrepreneurial life. That's what entrepreneurial life tastes like, is I don't have to wait around. I don't have to wait for someone to pick me. I go and I just get to do it. And, it flies based on the energy I put into doing it. So I just started to learn all about, I would study, Lindsay, Mack's, Sarah Faith Gottesdiener's, their sales pages, their course pages, not to copy it, but to understand, what is sales copy? What is sales copy compared to, newsletter writing that's not going to sell something, How are these different copy styles different? What are the moves? How did Sarah Faith Gottesdiener convince me to pay for moonbeaming? How did Lindsay Mack inspire me to pay for Tarot for the Wild Soul class? And really thinking about that, what were the moves, And what could I learn about this for myself? Because I didn't have any experience in writing sales copy or marketing copy at all. And so anytime someone was sending me something and I was noticing something inside of me that was I'm really interested in this, I think I want to do this, then I was wait a minute, what did they just do? And just studying, oh, I see how they brought me in, or I see how they really, I got involved in the way they told that story. And then it started to feel like it was about me, I started to really study it so that I could understand how to inspire someone to come learn about Neptune with me, for example. Okay, so I'm seeing we're over an hour. It's really fun to share all this because this is the stuff. Okay, so then a really big thing happened right around, it was the same time as Neptune vibes. I was following a woman who was known in the tarot world. She had a piece in Sarah Faith Gottesdiener's Many Moons, where she was a guest writer, and I was getting her newsletters, and she had this newsletter about working with her to cultivate a business that's led by your soul and grow your money and help you release resistances. So it was a business mentorship with a mystic. And I loved her writing so much. And there was something about the email that was I want this. So I put $1,500 into a 12-week mentorship with her, which was huge, crazy amount of money for me at that time. But there was something about the way she laid it out. I really believed her, and I believed myself to be someone who was really going to learn from her. And I was going to take everything from that mentorship and bring it to my business. I was willing to do it. So that propelled me into this big bump, because from there, she was helping me understand my copywriting, helping me understand processes, helping me see through the eyes of a reader, looking at my stuff. She's scanning my website. She's looking me over. She's really understanding my business and helping me articulate what I think I'm doing, which all started to things just got more serious for me. And I was really propelling myself now. And what I really wanted to do, I told her, is a month-long class on the moon in inner child healing. And she was well, you want to do a free webinar on the moon? Meaning a free webinar to get folks to be inspired to sign up. And so I did my first free webinar, and I had her there coaching me. Just anytime I was scared to death to have a live event. I had never had a live event before. But she coached me do not do more than 30 minutes. This is free. You're going to get in there and you're going to get out of there. know what you're going to say, and then you're going to pitch it. And I want you to practice your pitch with me. And I would practice the pitch with her because I was so terrified of pitching it. And like that everyone would be like turned off and mad at me that I was pitching like a beautiful class. But that's how our heads think, you know? And so I did it. Working with the moon in astrology, 30-minute free webinar. Come meet with me. And maybe like 20 people came. And that's like the free webinar thing. Like, this is exciting. All these people are here. I mean, that felt like 1 million people at that time. And I did it. I knew I was good. I could feel that I was like, I still have the outline in my journal. And what I say there, I still say. Like, it's so good. Which is true. And I pitched it. And about, 8 of the 20 came into my first lunar class, Soft Strength, including people who now have bigger follower counts than me, who, for them, inner child healing is now like at the center of their work. I'm tooting it because that's pretty amazing, It was a life-changing thing that I made. I taught that several years. It then became Moon to Moon, the class that I have as my self-paced foundational class. And so I really saw the power of investing in a mentor/coach who is going to like celebrate you and be there with you and talk to you about your dreams, because who could you talk about it with? It's like, you don't want to burden your clients and your students with your, holding space for you, Who's going to hold space for you? And are they as expansive as you are? Are they as expansive as you are? Because you want to be working with someone who isn't going to belittle your vision. And ultimately, I didn't work with her anymore. But like that experience gave me a taste of what's possible. The other thing is that at the same time, I joined her tarot reading circle, and I saw how impactful it is when readers can be encircled together, which eventually became like a jumping point for me to imagine the magician's table. Is like, we need more of these spaces. Like, this is really cool. We need spaces where people can read together and practice reading together. Like, this is such great community building. Oh my God. So that was all first half of 2019. So then what ended up happening is basically from Soft Strength's power, a really big thing then happened, which is the horoscopes were doing so well that they offered me a full page spread in the physical magazine. You can like go Google September 2019 Britton LaRue D magazine, and you can see it. Like color photo of me sitting with this tarot cards on a table. I wasn't really ready for that. And actually, y'all, I didn't look at it for like 3 months. I couldn't look at it. I actually couldn't look at it because I was so overwhelmed by being catapulted that quickly. Like, we can only be catapulted as quickly as we have capacity for. And I didn't talk about it. I didn't toot the horn. Like, I didn't brag because I was like overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed that happened. But as you can imagine, for years, I was getting clients. I saw you in D magazine. I saw you in D magazine. And so that brought me into yet another round of like confidence around, I have tons of clients now. I only have so much time because, again, I'm full-time university teaching. So now that's probably around when I moved into like the 200s for pricing, just to slow it down. And I was just getting so many repeat clients, like people coming back again and again and again. People just really, really starting to get into my voice around this time. Like my percent people opening my emails was like 80%. It's not that high now. Like back at the beginning, everybody in that newsletter was like really, 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 really salivating for my voice. And which I'm not saying they don't know. It's just that there was this sweet energy about it. I think because of the horoscopes, there's like such an intimacy when someone's relying on your horoscopes. Like there's a lot of affection there and endearment. And like you're really, really supporting human beings month to month. And that's like so precious and so powerful. And yeah, it was in that fall then where I'm about to close us out with the final thing that I did. And this is going to be the transitional thing into the next chapter. I decided to create an offering called the Medicine of Autumn. Oh my God, I'm feeling like weepy. This was like this was a big one because this is when my me voice started to come through. And for all y'all, it takes time to really like get into it, There's so much to remove. I'm still coming into my me voice, right? Like there's so much to remove from our throats. There's like so much that can make it hard. And there's also so much in our third eye, there's so much in our head around other people's voices, other teachers, the teachers' voices, the people we love, like for me, the Lindsay, Macks, the Sarah Faith Gottesdieners, just like how to like really release them and just let your own voice come through. And I feel like the Medicine of Autumn, like something was starting to really come through at that point that was coming from a me place. And it was all pre-recorded, and I did like the Medicine of Libra. And then inside of that, I had like the Medicine of Justice and Venus. And I like broke it down the same way you see me do in Living Astrology, and before that with Living the Signs workbooks. And like people who bought Libra, like everybody bought Scorpio, and then everybody, and then more. And then, because then I had testimonials speaking about how great Libra was. And then it was like exponential growth and into Medicine of Winter, which really starts to be the next chapter, because Medicine of Autumn was like, yeah. That was around when I met Jonathan. Jonathan found me through Google and then did the Medicine of Autumn. Mariola, Rosario, these are both my dear friends and first students, and who will be faculty in year 2 of Emergence Astrology starting Leo season. Mariola found me in this time and was like obsessed with the Medicine of Autumn. Like that was that was me just letting something else out. That then became a kind of frequency that carried me into the next chapter, which then carried me into the next chapter, and so on. But I only got to that after 18 months of just kind of, tinkering and playing at it and realizing like, I don't want to do this thing, or I don't want to be committed to this kind of client this way, or I don't want to do that price anymore. And I don't want to, I started to I had to go through so many experiences of being terrified of being visible, being terrified of having my voice judged, of being terrified that I would accidentally sound like my teachers. Like one of my biggest fears was that like I would feel just like a Sarah Faith Gottesdiener wannabe. Like, oh my God, like the fear of that was so intense that it sometimes was silencing, especially when someone's like so important to you, but you definitely don't want to be them, Like what I would say to you all who are in this chapter of fumbling around and Two of Pentacles is like, honestly, invest in free teachings, invest in paid teachings, invest in big teachings, invest in small teachings. Let the people who inspire you really guide you, but especially the ones who are allowing you to have your own information with what they're sharing, who are shaping you with their deep questions, not by giving you answers, who are giving you plenty of space to do it your own way, just taking what resonates and leaving the rest behind. And I would offer that keeping journals for this process is just a really powerful thing to do as a housing for your profound wisdom, as a place for you to tinker thoughts through. Those thoughts then can become courses. Those thoughts can become posts. Those thoughts can become newsletters. Keeping everything in that house of your journal allows you to see the evidence of all of the creativity that you have. One of my Mystics Making Money is going to be on journaling for manifestation, but it won't be until next year. But I'm just so glad that I have these journals so I can tell you, I can just see what I was doing there. Yeah. I have the page open right here. This will be my final thoughts. I have the page open to that eclipse in Cancer Capricorn, the summer of 2019, when I had this huge realization. It was so much was happening in Capricorn back then, where my moon is, and that's my 10th house of career. And I woke up from this dream and I wrote, realizing how my need for validation in my career, my whole life has motored so much compulsive overworking. If I'm not working for that anymore, what do I want to do? What does life look like without my need for validation? What if my career isn't about my validation and it's just about making money for my family? I just, at that time, just wanted so deeply to neutralize. I can see now that what that is like wanting to feel more neutral, wanting to not feel so activated by how intense it was to show up publicly. And I wrote, I loved doing the videos about how to parent the inner child of each moon sign, because this is after I had created Soft Strength. I feel that it could be a special niche for me to talk with parents about their child's needs via their chart. I could do a free webinar called something like How Astrology Can Help You Parent. That's just an example of how like I would, in my journal, you would see like me working through these like huge ahas, me asking myself questions to help open up even more information. And then an idea about like something I could do could be, now not everything became things that I did, but those videos about the moon, parenting your moon sign were so beloved that I still include them in Moon to Moon, even though I completely did it all brand new last 2024 in the fall. But I still included those old 2019 videos because so many people told me like what a big deal those videos were for them. People who went on to become astrologers and help people with energy healing. It's just really beautiful. So yeah, I feel like that's probably complete then for this part of the story. I'm wondering for you, like what feels like the most supportive anecdote or like the most impactful aspect of this storytelling? You know, like what did you notice could be supportive for you? What surprised you that I said that could maybe activate something for you on your timeline? Yeah, this is a personal story, so it's not going to be like everyone's story and not going to be supportive for everyone's process. But I hope that in sharing where I've been, you're able to see how no matter where you are in your pathway, you're creating things that are going to unfurl later. They're going to mean something to you later, and you can't know yet what it is, but that doesn't mean you should stop, you know? It's like just following the desire, follow the dream, follow that sense of like, I don't know why, but I feel like I have to do this. I don't know why, but I have to sign up for this. I don't know why, but this is just what's calling me right now. And there may be parts of you that are like so afraid that that's going to be a waste of your money or a waste of your attention, right? Like that's valid to have that concern. Those things are our precious resources. But in my pathway here, even the teachers that I eventually was like, I don't think I'm in affinity with you anymore, you know? I don't regret the time that I spent with them because I learned things that I was called into learning, including when I was called into seeing how I'm different from that teacher and I'm distinct from that teacher. And that's really important because as you grow confidence in your leadership, you want to know where you're distinct. You want to know how you're different from your teachers. And you want to know that because you don't want to be those teachers. You want to be you. Because you can't be a leader by trying to be somebody else, you know? Like being a leader is a commitment to being yourself and letting that be what guides you. And this is to me why I think mystics are leaders, because mystics are committed to sovereignty. And if you're committed to sovereignty, you can get very, very close to your teachers and to your mentors and still know where the lines are between them and you and not feel shame about them. If you have teachers of integrity, they will applaud you for that and they will be happy for that. It's honestly like a way to lose my respect if your like creativity is too close to mine or your work looks too close to mine, you know? It doesn't mean I'm going to ditch you. It doesn't mean I'm going to call you out maybe. But like respect is a thing that we do not have to give to everyone, you know? Now, I'm not speaking about respect for their humanity. Of course, we're going to respect everyone's humanity. I mean like respect for that, for someone as a leader or a creator or a teacher. Like we tend to respect those who we can sense respect themselves enough that they're creating from their own place. And when you're beginning, it's hard to tap fully into that, right? So sometimes you are kind of feeling a little bit like a mimic. Sometimes you may feel a little bit like, is this even from me or is this from my teachers? Like, I do think that that's a growth signature. The fact that you're feeling concerned about it is the signal to you that you aren't going to continue that way forever. You are working your way towards the you voice, speaking and putting things out there from a you place. So I feel like that's like a transitional bridge where you're in this kind of sense of like, I'm trying to have my own voice, but I'm aware of how much my voice is influenced by my teachers, and that's just a thing that you move through. The key is having self-awareness through it. Like if you're aware that you're in that bridge, you can give yourself compassion and aim to cite your source when the language is so close, you just really need to put quotes around it and name the teacher, or transform the language in a way that's coming from like your journal. It's coming from what you got from your guides. It's coming from a question you were asked in the lunar ritual. And information from that place is going to be much more you, even if it's kind of like at a high level saying a similar thing. It's really about finding that language that feels like it's coming from inside of you. And when you do that, you can feel an integrity. And the more you practice it and stay in line with that, the more along the way you start to have something like a medicine of autumn, where you're like, oh, I'm dropping into something that's way more me now. Whoa. And it is like the best feeling. It's just the best feeling. And I for me, this is what voice healing is. And almost all of my containers have turned out to be about voice healing. We were just talking about this in Underdog to Diva yesterday, because so many people came because of my voice and then wanting to feel more confident in growing their own. I didn't know that I was setting out to teach this when I started. I didn't know how central the voice is to transformation. So when I said I want to be a midwife for transformation, I didn't realize that I was really talking about the voice. Yeah, I'm going to be talking more and more about that because it's just becoming so clear. And moon to moon for me has always been like a place where I can just let my voice go and let it reach whoever it wants to reach. And I can just record and then put it out there. Record and put it out there. Record and put it out there. And for me, it's like a practice. And it has impact. And we all impact one another through the voice, which is not just speech utterances, but also our actions and our choices. We all impact one another through our actions, our choices that's all part of voice. Now I'm getting into a whole other thing. So if you want more on that, keep listening and join one of my containers. I talk a ton about that in the Moon to Moon class. And it's central to just for sure the Magician's Table and Underdog to Diva. Yeah. I'm feeling myself closing. This was a long one and an honor. I'm so honored to be the me that is the future self of the younger me that I was telling you about in this episode. But she's the one, she's like my inspiration, my younger self, the one I talked to you about today. That's why I have my younger self as my inspiration in the opening of my book, the dedication to my younger self and my future self. My future self is my mentor. My younger self is my inspiration because she made of her life a way of being that would be the way of life that I could then write about and teach about and talk about here. Because she did that, I'm living this life that is extremely connected to dream and desire. And it's what my younger self, little me, always wanted to believe would be true about reality, is that we live from our dreams. So I was like a very rainbow connection kind of child, as you probably were too. And now I feel that I live the rainbow connection from the risks and the conviction and the devotion, the bravery of the younger me that I talked to you about today in this episode. So thank you for listening. If you're still here, that means you probably enjoyed this one. So this is that moment where I ask, have you ever left a review for Moon to Moon? Because that would be really amazing. Thank you. Or a rating. I'll take a rating if you don't have time for a review, but reviews are extra sweet. It's really helpful when someone lands on a new podcast. They want to know, what do people say? So thank you for all of y'all who've supported Moon to Moon that way. Okay, I'll see you at the next one. Lots of love. Don't forget to check out the links for the offerings I mentioned earlier, Underdog to Diva, Time Secrets, and Emergence Astrology Year 1. All right, cheers.